to the stage Jean-Luc Chatelain. Serves as the Managing Director and CTO of Accenture Applied Intelligence. You're more than welcome to the stage. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you. Good morning. Somebody going to tell me where the clicker is? There's no clicker? Is there a clicker? No? I guess I'll say next slide. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Jean-Luc Chatelain. I'm the CTO of Accenture Intelligence, Applied Intelligence. We're a group of, it's a small group within Accenture, about 20,000 people, and all we do 24/7 is AI. But I've told that I've had 15 minutes since it used to be a 45-minute talk, so I'm going to do everything in French. If you speak French, raise your hand, and somebody will translate. Okay? So let's go for it. So let's talk about Pragmatic AI. I'm pretty impressed, by the way, by the AI. It's almost like AI royalty is in that conference. So I'm not AI royalty. I'm just another guy who's trying to do his job. So let's talk about AI. So what has happened lately, right? As the movie says, for those who are old enough to have seen it, the volume has just been turned to 11, right? From years of sleeping in the dark, AI finally came out. The combination of the various maturity of technology, hardware, and software are such that we can now use the algorithm that our forefather, that is the mathematician that put together. It's an outstanding time to be in this industry. I think there's more innovation, or the rate of innovation is huge. Never, in my 30 years career, I've never seen that rate of innovation. It's amazing. There's also a lot of hype. And in fact, the real term is that there's a lot of bullshit about AI, right? So let's forget all the hype and focus on what's real, right? And the other thing is, there is an emergence of the cardinality of model dramatically increasing into your enterprise. So as enterprises are becoming data-driven, which really means that they leverage all the data available to them to find actionable insight and to put those insights into business process, the number of models into the enterprise is increasing dramatically. I call that model mania. But what's interesting is that it drives some operationalization challenges that needs to be addressed if you want to deploy AI at scale. But let's not also forget that all problems don't go away, right? You still got to take care of your data because you don't get any good insight from bad data. That's a fact, right? And you have to make sure that things like BI consolidation is still happening. So all in AI means that you should not also forget the past. The past is still important. It's part of running your business. And then another part is big data is over, right? As a hype factor. I think what matters is all data. I never liked the word big data because it was sort of exclusive of other data. But in reality, what makes sense for an enterprise is to use all data at their disposal, right? Whatever the operational data is, whatever they have from curated data providers like the Equifax of this world, right? Open source data, all data matter. That's what it says. Now, what I've done here is put a few themes that I think are important for you to know. So let's look at what I call the data supply chain, right? No good AI from bad data. But data preparation has never been exciting world, right? Not a lot of people like ETL, not a lot of people like the data quality and all the work that has been done to the data before a data scientist can use it, right? But the realization, and there is no good AI with bad data, is driving a renaissance on that domain. And what's interesting in that renaissance of data preparation is that AI can come power AI. What I mean by that, the process of data preparation has always been very manual. People looking at tables and columns and figuring out what to do and to make them clean. But today, you can leverage AI to go and introspect those databases, introspect those tables, introspect those columns, and figure out how to automatically clean AI. And what we are going to see is an increased amount of AI inside the world of data preparation. There are some vendors out there that already are doing it, and that's going to have a dramatic effect on reducing the time in data preparation. More important, 80% of the time of a data scientist is spent in data preparation. That's a lot of wasted time for a very expensive resource. With AI in data preparation, we will be able to reduce that time and therefore have a better use of data scientists. And honestly, they don't really like doing preparation. They're more about creating models and training models and validating them. Another thing is the rise of ModelOps. So as I said, the cardinality of model in enterprises is rising. We're going from hundreds of models to thousands and 10,000s of models. What does it mean? AI can no longer be a cottage industry. Data science can not be a cottage industry. The era of data scientists in their corner, in an enterprise, and multiple corners not speaking to each other is over. We need to be able to take the models and take them out of the laptop or the desktop of a data scientist and put them into the business process. That movement of industrialization of a domain that was a cottage industry is called ModelOps. So we stole the nickname from the developers and DevOps, which was born 15 to 20 years ago, and now we are going to see ModelOps. So what you're going to see is a complete suite of value chain of components that manage model from birth all the way to requirement. And very important part of this, in that industrialization, is going to be the ongoing monitoring of the quality of model for explainability, for bias detection, for a lot of things. So we have to make sure that you have an end-to-end view of your model infrastructure. Training AI. Training AI is not cheap, right? So one thing that's important is as good as deep learning model can be, or machine learning model can be in general, if you have bad training set, you'll get bad outcome, right? Which can be very, very dangerous even in some cases. So what's important is to understand that training is one of the most important part of machine learning, right? And then proper labeling of your data sets is critical, right? Labeling has to be done by subject matter expert, not just computer scientists that think they know what something is, right? So say you take an example like looking for cracks on train track, right? You want to do a system that's going to look at train track and see what's wrong. There's two major problems on train tracks. One is missing bolts on the clamp that hold the track on the ground. Any of us can label an image with that. There's a bolt or no bolt. That's pretty easy to see. But when you have to look at the cracks, that's a whole different story. If you're not of that industry, none of us could properly label those images for training the deep learning model. So the thing to remember is that data preparation, training, and labeling are critical for deep learning, but also that training time can take a lot of money, so don't try to train your model on your own in-house infrastructure. Don't go buy a bunch of GPUs and all that. Go use them in the cloud, right? That's your best investment, especially that all these technology are moving at high speed. You know, I don't know who's going to win. Will it be GPU, TPUs, FPGA? Who knows, right? But what's clear is use them in the cloud for your training. Your accountant will be very happy. Another part is there is the emergence of a technology which is not new per se. This is a technology that was known in the 90s called knowledge graph. But now with AI capabilities coming to be democratized, we can really build usable knowledge graph. Knowledge graph mean you can represent human knowledge into a form a computer can understand, right? And back in the 90s, the computer could not follow essentially what we wanted to do. So knowledge graph got a bad rap to a certain extent, but today we can do it. And knowledge graph are very, very powerful tool because it capture relationship between all your entities in your business, people, customers, places, right? And their relationship. And through a knowledge graph, you can start finding what's called patterns and anti-patterns. You can start getting answers of questions you don't even know existed, right? So it's very important. There are two types of knowledge graph, shallow and wide, and deep and narrow. You guys are using a shallow knowledge graph every day. Can somebody tell me? Come on, every day you use it, at least one time. Right? Waze, that's not bad. Google. It's a knowledge graph, but it's a very shallow knowledge graph. So you can type Hamilton and Google and know that it's a play, it's a president, and you'll see the card on the right-hand side. But it's very shallow. It's not very industry-centric. The opportunity is in industry knowledge graph, where you can codify a very, very deep knowledge on like nuclear power plants or medicine and others. So you'll see the emergence of knowledge graph. My money is in 5 years. Every single enterprise application that deals with the concept of knowledge will have a knowledge graph. Search engines are passé, right? I'm sick and tired of searching, if you ask me. I'd rather get a find engine, because at the end of the day, a search engine that searches and never finds anything is pretty useless. But what's happening right now is that through, again, AI coming to a level of maturity, we can use NLP to understand the question. We can use a knowledge graph behind the scene to really have a very rich corpus of knowledge, right? We can now take all kind of data, unstructured data, but not just text, but videos and all that. And we can have truly a find engine, something that when you ask a question, you will have a very high precision and a very low recall. You don't need 6 pages of result. You need 1 page with the right result that you need. And the other thing you'll see is that information will find you, which means that depending on your context, your phone might surprise you and say, oh, I understand you just landed at Ben Gurion Airport. Here is where your limo is, right? You do not ask, it just comes, right? And you'll see more and more of that. Google now is a good example of information finding you. So if I look at Pragmatic AI, I look at AI technologies that are today in the enterprise and are not part of the 70% of BS that's out there, or the hype, but all the things that is truly real. Autonomous vehicles, that's pretty obvious. Chatbots, and I call them Chatbots Part 2, because chatbots are not new. We had them 10 years ago, and basically they were grep on an FAQ. So if your question happened to have a word that happened to be on an FAQ, the chatbot might find it, right, and bring you that as an answer. Totally useless as consumers, right? But today, you have truly interactive chatbot that truly understand the question you're asking and will bring answers that are non-human, but near human, I would say, in terms of the quality of the answer. Hyper-personalization is another thing that it's absolutely real. Today's marketing is about marketing for you. Not marketing for him, but not marketing for you, Shani. Right? And so personalization is totally driven by AI. Conversational appliance. I'm sure you have an Alexa or Google Home or whatever it's from the other guys. Translation, right? That's a use of AI. And then knowledge graph, again, as I spotted before. All this is true AI you can use to change your enterprise for the good, right? The rest, a lot of it, be careful. Just use common sense. If it's look too good to be true, it's probably not true, right? Now, to conclude, I'll show you an example of real AI in the business. So this is what's called an engineering document. This is a document for a power plant. And that document, which is very cryptic, is a bunch of pipes and reservoirs and pumps and motors and all that. And this document is born digitally, has been printed, right? And then the digital files are lost a lot of time. So how do I make a digital twin of my factory? I have to read all those documents. Today, this is done by hand. Somebody spent 2 hours highlighting every pump and write down the type of pump. Well, with AI, right, that's an example of what we've done, we can automatically identify the various parts that are inside that document. And behind the scene is a model and a suite of models that put together the detection of every pipe, every pump, and find it. But we augment the human, we don't eliminate the human. And the fear of your job going away, come on, get real, people, right? When the train came out, yeah, we lost the stagecoach, but we got mechanics, right? So the same thing is happening. So the human participates. Here it did not find the big column. The human says, this is a column. The next time around, then the system will understand. I am done for the day, and right, 13 seconds left. That's pretty good. I hope that was useful, right? But remain pragmatic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful talk. Should I expect that next year an AI will moderate this event?
Probably not.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.